In the heart of a remote African village, where the land whispered old secrets and the spirits of the ancestors watched from the shadows, a boy named Kwame harbored a hunger for power. His anger had grown, festering in the corners of his heart, and it led him deeper into the forbidden forest than anyone had dared to go for generations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in a red glow, Kwame stumbled upon something buried beneath the tangled roots of an ancient baobab tree. It was a shrine, forgotten by time, its surface worn and cracked. His pulse quickened as he dug through the soil and bones, uncovering a stone coffer etched with symbols that seemed to shift in the fading light. Ignoring the cold whisper in the wind, he pried it open. Inside lay a serpent, coiled and waiting. Its scales were as black as the night, gleaming like polished obsidian, and its eyes burned with an unnatural fire. Kwame's breath caught in his throat. This was Njoka, the cursed serpent of legend, said to hold the power to control minds and destroy entire villages. For centuries, the elders had spoken of it only in whispers, a warning to those who sought more than they deserved. The serpent's eyes locked with his, and in that moment, Kwame felt a voice slither into his mind, a voice promising him everything he desired: vengeance, power, fear. It spoke of control, of bending those who had wronged him to his will. The offer was too tempting, and Kwame, desperate and angry, accepted. The serpent coiled around his arm, its cold body pressing against his skin as its malevolent whispers filled his thoughts. His vision blurred, and when his eyes cleared again, they burned with the same fire that blazed within the serpent. The ground trembled as the pact was sealed, and a heavy silence fell over the forest. Back in the village, night had fallen, and the people went about their lives, unaware of the evil that was creeping toward them. Ajua, a young girl, was the first to fall under the serpent's spell. She had been fetching water from the stream when the snake slithered out of the darkness, wrapping itself around her feet. Her eyes met its fiery gaze, and in an instant, her will was no longer her own. She rose, her body stiff and unnatural, and began walking back to the village, her lips moving in a silent chant. The serpent moved swiftly, spreading its curse. One by one, villagers fell under its thrall. Men, women, and children alike became puppets, their minds twisted by its venomous whispers. The village, once filled with the sounds of laughter and drums, descended into madness. At the village square, a feast had begun. What started as a celebration quickly turned into a nightmare. The air, thick with the smell of roasted meat, was soon filled with screams. Villagers, their eyes glazed and glowing faintly, turned on each other with a frenzy of violence. Machetes flashed in the moonlight, hands grabbed at anything that could be used as a weapon, and blood ran freely through the dusty streets. In the center of it all, Kwame stood, watching the chaos with a strange mixture of horror and exhilaration. This was what he had wanted: power, control, but it had spiraled beyond his grasp. The serpent, now swollen with the villagers' suffering, slithered up his body, wrapping itself around him in a suffocating embrace. Its whispers were louder now, more insistent, feeding his darkest desires. "You are mine," it hissed, its voice wrapping around his mind, tighter and tighter. Kwame tried to resist, but it was no use. The serpent's power was too great. His body moved as if controlled by invisible strings, his hands rising to strike down those he once knew. He had become a puppet, just like the others, his will bent to the serpent's dark command. But not all had fallen under the serpent's spell. In the depths of his hut, the village elder Nana Badu had been communing with the ancestors. The spirits had warned him of the serpent's awakening, and as he stepped out into the chaos, he knew there was little time left. Nana Badu's eyes scanned the destruction, the blood, the bodies, the fires burning where homes once stood. His heart ached for the people he had sworn to protect, but he knew what had to be done. Gathering his strength, the old man raised his staff and began to chant, his voice rising over the screams and wails of the cursed villagers. The air grew colder, the sky darkened, and the wind began to howl. The spirits had heard his call. The ground beneath the village trembled, and a dark cloud gathered overhead, swirling with the rage of the ancestors. The snake, sensing danger, hissed and tightened its grip on Kwame. Nana Badu's voice grew louder, his chant becoming a roar as he invoked the power of the spirits. The snake writhed, its body twitching as the spiritual energy pressed down upon it. The curse was breaking, but it would require more than words to banish Njoka.